Okay, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday it was the top 15 point guards in the NBA. Today it is the top 15 shooting guards. Before we start, just want to say, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We are doing a $100 giveaway at 500 subscribers. You do not want to miss out on this opportunity. Now, the shooting guard position in the NBA does not have the top to bottom dominance that the point guard position has, but there's still a lot of really, really good players and some really, really strong role players who did just miss the cut. Guys like Tim Hardaway Jr., guys like Gary Trent Jr., Bruce Brown, Lou Dort. These guys all are pretty impactful for their team, but they just missed out on the spot. And starting the list off at number 15 is another role player I wanted to shout out. That is Justin Holiday. Justin Holiday is not a guy you would expect to see on a top 15 list, but he does everything that you would want a modern shooting guard to do. He shoots and he guards. That's it. He's not going to create his own shot. He's not going to play make for others. He's going to catch and shoot, which is pretty much all that he does. I think 98% of his threes are assisted, and he's going to defend incredibly well. He might not be your second best player, your third best player, or even your fourth best player, but he's going to be one of the biggest pieces on your team, and he's one of these guys that will fit like a glove in any system. I wanted to give Justin Holiday a shout out. Again, maybe not somebody you would think about, but like I said, the shooting guard position doesn't have the top to bottom dominance that the point guard position has. At number 14, we have Malik Beasley. This dude is just a walking bucket. He scores from anywhere on the court, scores efficiently too, but again, that's pretty much all you're going to get out of him, which is fine. He's not going to defend. He has become a better playmaker. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he just has the ball in his hands a lot more now in Minnesota, but when he catches fire, he's one of the most electric players in the NBA, a dominant scorer. I don't know what his role will be on like an actual contending team, but when you need a bucket, Malik Beasley is a solid guy to have. He is serving a suspension right now for some of the shit he got himself into in the offseason, but still an exciting offensive talent in the NBA right now. At number 13, it's another exciting offensive talent, Collin Sexton, who is in this weird spot being like a 6'1" combo guard. He's not really a point guard. He's more of a shooting guard, but he's a little bit too small to be a shooting guard, especially when you pair him with Darius Garland, another small guard. But I still like Collin Sexton's game. I actually think there are aspects of his game that are pretty underrated. Like when he wants to be, I think he can be a pretty solid playmaker. I think his shortness kind of limits him as far as defense goes, but I think he does have good defensive instincts. And he tries on the defensive end, and that can lead to some good things here and there. Overall, he is a pretty terrible defender though. And he's just another one of these dudes who can score. He's a walking bucket. Again, like with Malik Beasley, I don't know what his role on like a contending team is, but there's still plenty of room to improve for Collin Sexton, plenty of time to improve. I think he's going to be a good player in the NBA for a long time. At number 12, we have Norman Powell from the Toronto Raptors. Again, just another certified bucket getter. That's pretty much what you're getting out of shooting guards. It's just bucket getters. Powell is one of the most efficient scorers in the NBA. He has been now for quite some time. And there have been times this season with the Raptors where he has been by far the only competent player on offense on the court. We saw this a few nights ago when they played the Pistons. Half their team was out. Norman Powell was literally the only person on the floor who could do anything offensively. His play is a big reason why the Raptors have had this resurgence and now they're back in the playoff hunt. So we got Norman Powell here at number 12. At number 11, we have one of the biggest surprises in the NBA this season. That is Terry Rozier. It was just a year ago that we were all laughing at the Hornets front office, laughing at Michael Jordan for letting Kemba Walker walk. And now Terry Rozier is having a career resurgence, maybe the best year of his career right now. The dude is scoring absurdly efficiently and has just been amazingly fun to watch for the Hornets. The addition of LaMelo Ball and Gordon Hayward has obviously helped out Terry Rozier so much. It's less of a burden on him now. He doesn't have to run the offense. He can just simply focus on being Terry Rozier, which is a scorer. That's what he's going to do. He also provides some good defense from time to time, but it's Terry Rozier is just a bucket getter right now. The Hornets are fun to watch. If you have not watched the Hornets, I highly recommend it. You have Terry Rozier getting buckets, LaMelo Ball doing LaMelo Ball things. You have, Malik Monk and Miles Bridges who can dunk on anybody. They're honestly must-watch TV right now, which is kind of crazy to say because no one expected this out of the Hornets. At number 10, it is another bucket getter, Jordan Clarkson. This dude's game is absolutely insane. If he touches that shit, he is shooting that shit. And that shit's more than likely going in too. He reminds me of like this old Kobe Bryant meme. I'm not saying that Jordan Clarkson is comparable to Kobe Bryant, okay? But like it reminds me of this old meme from like the prehistoric day of memes and NBA memes on like Facebook, where it's like the Kobe Bryant pass, just get the rebound. That's what it's like with Jordan Clarkson. If he touches it, he is shooting it. But he is such an efficient scorer who can score from anywhere. I mean, he comes into the game for the Jazz, and it feels like he can never, ever miss. It is honestly so frustrating to watch when it's happening against your team. But he's the runaway favorite for Sixth Man of the Year. Kind of like a sneaky all-star snub, too. And I've seen some very spicy takes about him and Donovan Mitchell over who's better. I think obviously Donovan Mitchell has more to his game, but Clarkson's just been absurdly good this year. At number 9, it is Freddie VanVleet. Dude is just a really good scorer. When he's hot, he cannot miss. He is really prone to like cold stretches though, and when that does happen, there's kind of a limit to what he provides you on offense. And I am interested to see if the Raptors do move on from Kyle Lowry, like what is Freddie VanVleet's role going to be? Is he going to run point for them? I think he is capable of doing it, but I think you're getting a downgrade for sure as far as playmaking goes from Kyle Lowry, who's one of the best in the NBA. to Fred VanVleet, who I think is capable, but scoring is more his thing. Now we get to the top 8. I think this is kind of around where tier 1 starts. Obviously, some of these guys have a very solid placing in tier 1, but you can make the argument for any of these guys being in it, starting with number 8, who is Donovan Mitchell. When he's on fire, when he catches fire, he's electric. He's fun to watch. He can dunk. He can shoot. We've seen him put up absurd numbers before, but I also think like his playmaking is overrated by Jazz fans. I think his defense is overrated by Jazz fans. I also think sometimes he gets like this hero ball mentality, which he does not need, because there's so many pieces in Utah. Look at that Sixers game from a few nights ago. He went like 0 for 12 in the last 7 minutes of the game. He scored 30 points on like 35 shots. You don't need to do that on this Jazz team. But Mitchell is prone to games like that. I still think he's a really good player. I think he is an all-star. I think he's well deserving of his all-star spot. Obviously, he's a gigantic reason why the Jazz are where they are. At number 7, we have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I think is the biggest all-star snub of them all. I understand why the Thunder are not that great, but I think Shai has just been absurdly good. He came into the league as one of the best ISO scorers in the NBA, and he's continued to develop. He's one of the best scorers in the NBA. Nobody really talks about it because obviously he's on the Thunder, but the fact that he's able to put up the numbers that he is with the roster that he's working with, dude, that game against the Mavericks a few nights ago, I couldn't believe it. I was seeing they have nobody on the court besides Shai who can do really anything on offense. The Mavs were doubling Shai at half court, and literally everybody else on the Thunder's roster was wide open from 3. Shai would pass it to him and they would pass out. None of them wanted to shoot because they were all brick factories. Like, it's remarkable that Shai's doing what he's doing with his surrounding cast. As far as like young talent goes, I think Shai is very much slept on. We're talking about like what young player can turn into a star or even a superstar. Shai is definitely on that list. He's one of my favorite players in the NBA, and he's just a really good modern NBA player. He's tall, he's lengthy, he can shoot, he can score from anywhere. He's also a good playmaker and a good defender at times. He still needs to develop a little bit there, but I think he's going to be one of the best players in the NBA at some point. I'm willing to go there. At number 6, we have Devin Booker. This might seem a little bit low for him, but I honestly almost had Shai over him. Like, I literally just changed that before the start of this video. It took a little bit of time for him to get used to playing with a player like Chris Paul, and that was apparent early on, but he's been going nuts over the past few weeks. He just won Player of the Month in the West for the month of February. I mean, it's Devin Booker, right? You know what you're getting. You're getting one of the best scorers in the NBA. You're getting one of the best shooters in the NBA. His game obviously translates. Remember, it was only like a year or two ago, people said Booker was just an empty stat sheet guy. Obviously, he can be the best player or the second best player on a winning team. The Suns are the second best team in the NBA. It's insane, man. Shout out to Devin Booker. Also, I want to keep in mind, because I know some people will get upset by this. They think Devin Booker might even be the best shooting guard in the NBA. All of these guys are so close to each other. Like, just because there's no wide gaps here. You can change any of these guys out for one another, and I would be okay with it. Got to jump in here really quick because I forgot about my number 5 player, Jaylen Brown. Amazingly good defense. Huge step forward offensively. Can score from anywhere on the court. One of the most athletic players in the NBA. Can shoot. Some people think he's the best player on the Celtics. I still would rather have Jason Tatum, but still Jaylen Brown, all-star, a star in the making, and quite possibly maybe the best defender on this entire list. So yeah, Jaylen Brown is my number 5 spot. Sorry. At number 4, it is Zach LaVine. I know that he's not really an MIP candidate, and I know he won't win the award, but out of any player in the NBA, I kind of feel like LaVine took the biggest leap forward, if that makes sense, as far as tiers go. Like last year, he was kind of viewed as like a borderline all-star guy, but maybe a dude who's getting empty stats on a bad team. Fast forward to this year, now like he's a star and a dude who I confidently feel you can actually build a winning team around. The fact that this dude is scoring at the rate that he's scoring on the efficiency that he is putting up is absolutely insane. If LaVine can keep this up, I think he can be a 50, 40, 90 guy in his career. I also think he could be maybe not the best player on a championship team, but maybe the second best player on a championship team. At number 3, we have Kyrie Irving, who I know most people consider a point guard, but just in this Brooklyn Nets offense, he's the shooting guard. I've seen people say that, well, James Harden is like the passing shooting guard and Kyrie Irving is like the scoring point guard. I'm like, dude, you just described a fucking shooting guard. Kyrie Irving is a shooting guard. There's nothing wrong in saying that. In fact, a lot of people have always said that Kyrie Irving would probably be best suited as a shooting guard. And dude, I mean, Kyrie Irving, man, he is nowhere near appreciated enough, all right? His handles, his craftiness, his athleticism. I don't think there's anybody in the NBA who gets to their spot easier than Kyrie Irving, and his spot is anywhere on the court. He can score from anywhere. He's one of the better shooters in the NBA. He shoots the mid-range, he shoots the threes, and he's also one of the best finishers and most crafty finishers in the NBA. He's literally one of the most skilled players of all time. It sucks, really, that we don't appreciate Kyrie as much as we should. He's always was either in LeBron's shadow, or when in Boston, everybody was just talking about how weird and how much of a locker room cancer he was, and everybody's talking about all the shit happening behind the scenes more than what he's doing on the court, and now he's playing behind Kevin Durant and James Harden, so less and less people will talk about him, but the dude is just absolutely nuts. At number 2, it is Bradley Beal, the leading scorer in the NBA, doing it efficiently. Also, interestingly enough, he really doesn't shoot the 3 as much as some of his contemporaries and as much as some of the other top scorers in the NBA. I mean, it's Bradley Beal at this point, right? We know who he is. We know what he does. It's just weird to me how everybody hated the Warriors, everybody hated the Heatles, everybody hated the Lakers, yet here we are, like everybody's crying. Everybody cries for super teams. The fact that the NBA doesn't have a super team right now makes it so much more enjoyable, yet everybody wants like the Lakers to get Bradley Beal or the Heat to get Bradley Beal or the Sixers to get Bradley Beal. Like, let Washington have their guys, okay? In at number 1, it is Paul George. I know that the NBA lists Paul George as a forward on the All-Star roster, but he's been playing the 2 for the Clippers. This might arguably be the best we've ever seen Paul George. I know like his numbers were better a few years ago in Oklahoma when he finished 3rd in MVP voting, but dude, the efficiency is unreal. I cannot believe how efficient Paul George is. He's got a legitimate chance to finish as a 50-40-90 dude, and he's just playing his role on the Clippers incredibly well. Probably the best defender out of anybody on this list. He's always been one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, and he's still incredibly good. And I know all of the jokes, playoff P, playoff piss, whatever you want to call them. I mean, it was kind of funny at the time because he was legitimately terrible in the playoffs, but they're kind of played out now, especially since he's been amazingly good this season. But I do, like, in a weird way, I don't like the Clippers. I think it is kind of funny when Paul George is terrible in the playoffs, but I kind of hope he has a good postseason so we can just move on from the because the thing is they're just terrible jokes now. They're not funny, right? So the jokes aren't funny anymore. So hopefully he has a good postseason so we can move on from this shit like the adults that we are. Okay, so that's my list. Let me know where you agree, where you disagree. Again, if there's like an obvious omission, it's probably because I have that player listed for a different position. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, like the video, you know, all of that good stuff, and I will see you tomorrow when we do the top 15 small forwards. Can't wait. The small forward position actually is not very good. I thought that it was going to be stacked, and the top of it is absolutely stacked. But there are some interesting guys towards the bottom of the list. Let's just say that. All right, I'll see you then. Goodbye. See ya. Get out of here. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and would like more content, click here or here to subscribe. If you want to watch more videos, click here or here to watch more videos. Isn't that right, Mr. Finney? Isn't that right?